Viewer beware.
Welcome to Viewer Beware, the series where we go over each episode of the Goosebumps TV series. And if you could tell by my nightly garb, tonight we're doing A Night in Terror Tower, the two-part special. This is actually one of my favorites from when I was younger because I would always rent the VHS at Blockbuster because that cover art was awesome. Also, I had the Fisher-Price Knights Castle set, so I was in a bit of a phase at the time. This episode has fantastic settings as it was shot at a real castle called Casa Loma in Toronto, those famous Toronto castles. So all of the sets have a more authentic feel to them. It doesn't feel like they're just dumped on a soundstage. You can feel the budget in every shot, unlike something like it came from beneath the sink.
A potato?
But in this story, we follow two siblings that are stuck in an endless chase. We have amnesia, a mysterious man in black, and of course lots of torture devices. So I say, rolleth thine spooky footage, while I drinketh my mead.
Oh, hello. I'm R.L. Stein.
This is our first special R.L. Stein intro we've gotten since Haunted Mask.
Hello, I'm R.L. Stein. I write the Goosebumps books.
He introduces our characters Eddie and Sue and how they're trapped in the titular Terror Tower. Immediately after the intro, we are taken to a gritty scene in a torture chamber that feels like it's ripped right out of Army of Darkness. After a fella gets dragged off screaming, we see it was just a promo video for a tourist destination, which feels odd. It's like using Dahmer footage to advertise bars in Milwaukee. We're introduced to Eddie and Sue, who are excited about visiting Terror Tower with their London tour group. And while they're waiting, Eddie flexes his pickpocket skills.
The mad pickpocket strikes again.
Also, while the bus drives them to Terror Tower, we get some bonus exposition.
Too bad Mom and Dad had that business conference. Yep, we're on our own.
When the tour group arrives, Eddie comments how creepy the tower seems before the tour group walks in. As Eddie is left behind, he sees a ghost on the roof of the tower that is waving him away. Sue asks him what the holdup is, and he decides to shake off the supernatural sighting and rejoin the group. The tour group then climbs the tower, and once they're at the top, the tour guide locks them in and claims that their group will be tortured before the guards draw their swords. But it turns out it's just a fun little British joke. You know the Brits.
Just a little Terror Tower joke. We Brits have to have some fun, you know.
Eddie reiterates his feelings that he doesn't feel safe in the tower and wonders if they should leave. The tour group gets to the torture room that is filled with what would be the most realistic looking mannequins in the world, or they're just severely underpaid actors, but hey, what's the difference? Sue wants to take Eddie's picture with the executioner, but while framing the shot, notices the executioner turns towards her and readies his weapon. Apparently Eddie didn't see any of that and just runs off to catch up with the group. Sue decides to investigate more, and the executioner swings his axe at her, which she narrowly dodges. When the group gets back to see what happened, it looks like the axe just slipped out of the dummy's hands. Before leaving the torture room, Eddie claims they're just wax before messing up the hat on a dummy, but it turns out that was actually just a guy. When the group gets to the North Tower, the tour guide retells a story about a prince and a princess that were dragged up to the tower to be tortured and murdered before they could take over the throne. Growing bored of this obviously in no way related to them story, Eddie pokes around the room before finding some graffiti that says "Long Live Freedom." This triggers another ghost cutscene and a wicked thunderstorm. After the storm, the kids are obviously scared and confused, which increases even more once they realize the group has left them behind. While they are wondering which way the group went, the supposed wax dummy finds them in the tower. Mistaking him for a worker, the kids ask for his help, but he grabs Eddie and tells them not to run away.
You will come with me.
Hey, that's pretty good how he stays in character.
The man in black starts casting some kind of spell before the kids seize the opportunity and run away into the tower. These scenes are some of the most tense in the series, as it really feels like an endless chase with danger at every turn. In the original version of the book, R.L. Stein supposedly had even more chase sequences before an editor told him to, cut that back.
No! Let me go! Ah!
Eventually the kids get away through a service tunnel and pop up out of the street. A tower guard spots the kids and assures them that nobody's allowed in the tower after closing and threatens to call the real police, causing the kids to escape in a taxi. After driving the kids to their hotel, the taxi driver threatens them if they don't have any money to pay him. So they run off to find their parents, assuring him their dad will pay. They decide to check the front desk where the concierge lets them know that not only is there no conference being held at the hotel, but their room is vacant.
That room is vacant.
What?
There is no one in that room at the present time.
But we are.
After saying that can't be true, the concierge asks what their last name is, as they probably just forgot the room number. However, a deeper fear sets in as both Sue and Eddie realize they don't know what their last names are. Still confused over this revelation, the kids decide to hide from the cab driver in the hotel restaurant. At the table, they also realize they can't remember what their parents look like, where they live, or anything about their lives before the current day.
Eddie, I can't even remember yesterday or the day before that, can you? No.
Fearing the wrath of an elderly taxi driver, they run off to the kitchen before the man in black catches up to them yet again. The man demands his property back, which apparently Eddie had pickpocketed while he was being molested earlier. He starts casting a spell again before Eddie tries to stop him, but a flash of bright light dazes Sue and she wakes up back in the tower. Upon leaving, she realizes that she is seemingly in medieval times, and all the residents are terrified of her.
I smell evil. Evil all around you. Your time is coming, dearie.
Eventually, Sue becomes surrounded by villagers before the man in black approaches on horse. She runs away and hides, but is immediately sold out by a narc villager and then taken back to prison.
Sue! Eddie! I was hoping you got away!
In the prison cell, the kids meet a man that claims to be the King Sorcerer and says the kids are actually Prince Edward and Princess Susanna of York. After the king and queen were killed and usurped, the sorcerer cast a spell to send the kids to the future to help them escape the tower. He gave them false memories that were incomplete due to time constraints, which ultimately led to the kids subconsciously coming back to the tower and getting captured all over again.
Edward of York and Susanna of York, by order of the king, you have been condemned to execution by beheading. So it is decreed.
Faced with this new information, the remnants of the spell wear off and Eddie and Sue are completely back in their prince and princess bodies. The three of the prisoners are then marched to the executioner's block to be beheaded, and the sorcerer begs the executioner to let him cast the spell again, send the kids away. However, the executioner still fears that they're going to come back as adults and he can't risk it. This causes Eddie to rush over to the executioner to beg and cry for his life, because he is just a child. But this is all a ruse to steal the magic stones and give them back to the sorcerer. Despite the executioner trying to stop him, the sorcerer finishes the spell, and the kids wake up in the future, discovered by the tour guide. Elated to be back in the future, the kids celebrate before being picked up by the sorcerer, claiming to be their legal guardian. As the tour group leaves the tower, the sorcerer notices he only has 2 of the 3 magical stones.
Edward! Have you been up to your tricks again?
Hey, don't look at me!
So the man in black followed them through time. In the original ending of the book, he never followed them back. They just got away safe and clean and everything was fine. But Goosebumps Without a Twist ending just doesn't feel right. This is a series bread and butter, and it's off when it doesn't end with a twist. This is probably one of the more tense episodes of Goosebumps, as the chases just feel, trapped and real, and the confusion the kids have in between chases just makes everything more enthralling. And also, I know there's time travel, but at the end of the day, it's just 2 normal kids that are being threatened by normal guys to be executed, and that's terrifying. I also personally am kind of a fan of the false memories, implanted memories, amnesia kind of motif in my media, so I'm a little biased there. But even accounting for that bias, this is still a must-watch episode of the series. It's so good. That's why I give it 5 goosets out of 5 bumpets. Can you even hear me with this thing on? I don't know. Thank you guys for watching, though. Make sure you like and subscribe and come back for more. I'm doing Goosebumps till we're out of the bumps to goose, and then we'll move on to something else, and it's going to be a fun time. Join me for the ride. And until then, keep it goosey and bumpy.